I feel so gross today. Have you ever said something like that to yourself when you're looking in the mirror? Today, we are talking about tips for coping with bad body image days. This is Unloaded. I'm Crystal. This is Megan. We're happy you're here. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to us. We're popping our contact information into the video description. We'd love to hear from you. So this is like a really common, like super relatable topic, I think, for women and for sure for men. Bad body image days, those days where we just are like, gah, like, we look in the mirror or, our clothes are fitting a certain way or something is driving this like negative self-image. We all have them. I know I do. I think I started my week. I know I started my week not feeling super great in my own skin. And so I think like, it's important to talk about it, but also just like to give some advice on like on how we deal with it. And I think hearing other people talk about it too, there's some solidarity in that. Like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that feels this way.
There is. And I think there's a lot of people out there who think that people who post on social media, wear the short shorts, don't mind wearing the bra to the gym and out in public kind of thing, that they're just fine with everything. And I have to say, for me, I probably have bad body image days like every day almost. I've just
Yep.
decided to ignore it and not pay as much attention to it, but it's there. And I will even say that to wear shorts in the gym, it took me a lot of courage, and it took saying like, just don't care. Just don't care. No one cares.
Yeah.
Just put the
Yeah.
shorts
Yeah.
on, wear that, and that part of changing my outfit even was part of my self-growth. And I
Yeah.
don't care how it makes people feel anymore. It's
Yeah.
about that I crossed that line and I'm not going back.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, and I think like,
For
so I think
everyone. Yeah.
I think about this a lot. We both as female coaches, I'm sure we have these conversations with our clients a lot. In doing like kind of, I did a little bit of like, I've obviously reflected on this a lot myself and then read a lot about it. And I came across an important distinction that I thought was really relevant for anyone who's looking at body image and trying to like build, better self-esteem, better self-image. And it was the difference between body positivity and body resilience. And these words are used interchangeably. I've written a blog about this, and they're not the same thing. And I mean, we could do a whole episode on the body positivity movement, but that's not what we're talking about today. But there is an important distinction where body positivity still puts the emphasis on how your body looks. So there's still this really big like connection to like how you look and feeling positive about it, and this sort of almost pressure to love your body no matter what. And I think what sort of folks who like work in with individuals who have eating disorders who struggle with body image came to like realize and sort of educate on is that that's a lot of pressure. No one loves their body all the time, and it doesn't matter what they look like. And you kind of captured that when, because we can project onto people. We can think like, oh, like that person has like a body that is idealized by society, or maybe just idealized by me, and they must never have bad body image days. They must love their body every day, and it's just not true. So for whatever reason, everyone experiences these like sort of negative feelings, no matter what they look like. So the better sort of approach, or a more practical approach, would be resilience. And I think that ties into like neutrality, where it's like I don't feel like I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, I'm so in love with my body, but I don't wake up every day feeling like I hate it. It's just this space of like, it's just my body. This is how it
Yeah.
looks. Like, this is what it does. And it's
Yeah.
going to carry me through my day, my week, and my life. So that, I think, is where, as coaches, we can work with clients and try to help them get to a spot where they don't feel like a ton of self-loathing, hopefully. And maybe, no, they never feel like a ton of, positivity and self-love, but they maybe
Yeah.
feel more neutral about their appearance. And I think that's a reasonable place to try to like aspire to land.
I
That's kind of
agree.
where
And
I feel like I sit.
I agree. And I actually found like the love your body, love yourself kind of messages to oversimplify a deeper issue quite often and honestly create a pressure and a new issue
Yeah.
around if you don't love your body, then you're doing something wrong and you need to change. And
Yeah.
like I agree that we should work on changing that mentality and loving ourselves more, but we don't love our body every day. And if we just try and drill it in, like change that mindset rather than yes, finding that neutral ground where it's just like, ah, I don't love my body today, but I don't have to,
That, and it's
and
okay.
give power to that.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Where it's just like we just kind of arrive at a place where it's like, okay, I'm having one of those days, and so that's kind of what I want to chat about. Is just like, what do we do? Like, what are some of the things that we do when we're having those days? And like,
Yeah.
how do we manage them? So, one thing I do is I kind of acknowledge it, and it's usually like in a mirror. Like, so that's the other thing, like, some of the tips and tricks that are out there and sort of the guidance around like working through, developing more body image resilience is just like, if you have a really crappy mirror, get rid of it. Like, if it's just like, no matter what time of the day, no matter what the lighting is, if this mirror is just like giving you like not great feedback, then maybe it's the mirror. So it's also, so
Yeah.
it's recognizing like, okay, when is it, what are some triggers? So like, I would say if you're having a really tough day, then not constantly body checking, like looking in the mirror, like, oh, because it's so fickle. It can change. Like, one minute you're looking in the mirror and your brain is giving you great feed. Oh, you look great. And then you go back and then you look different and really nothing's changed. It's literally 10 minutes later. So just
Yeah.
recognizing like, okay, I'm in a spot today where I acknowledge I'm not feeling really great about how I look. And maybe you know why, maybe you don't know why, but that is the day. So just letting it kind of, okay, I'm in it. This is the day, but I'm not going to like let it consume me. I'm not going to constantly check my body to see if it looks different 10 minutes later in the mirror. So sort of avoiding that. So acknowledge it, avoid checking yourself in the mirror like every 5 minutes, and like try to just like move on, knowing that, you know what, tomorrow is probably going to be a better day. I would say that that is something that I practice where I can tell, oh, this is one of those days, and I'm just gonna go with it. And I know that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And I'll say, like you said, like building resilience helps you navigate it. And there's some level of avoidance. I remember there was a phase where I was like, I'm not going to look in mirrors. And if I do look in mirrors, I'm just sometimes I would look at myself twice even. I would look at myself the first time with just judgment and I would see the belly or I would
Mhm.
see the part of my arm that I didn't like, whatever. And
Yeah.
then I would look at myself again and I'm like, look at yourself the way someone else would look at yourself, just as like one total person. And I started changing the way I would look at myself. There was a little while where I avoided mirrors.
Yeah.
And then I did that for a while and I was like, okay, it's time to actually just face it and look in the mirror and stop looking at yourself that way.
So
And I still
harshly.
do, but
Yeah.
it improved so much. So I think there's times where avoidance is what we need and it's all we can achieve
Yeah.
through whatever's going on in our life. But then bring it back to not avoiding and
Yeah.
accountability because there's no growth and there's not like real permanent change in
Yeah.
avoidance. Yeah.
Absolutely. Practicing that sort of, like you said, developing that resilience. And
Yeah.
actually, I think that also applies to, like when we talk about social media, and that's some other advice too that people will, like look at giving is just like curate your feed, like don't look at people. So I understand that to a certain degree as well. I think it's important to look at your feed if there's an account that constantly makes you feel bad about yourself because they're very focused on body, like the aesthetic side of like training. So maybe it's like a bodybuilding account, or it's something that
Yeah.
like, or maybe it's somebody that like constantly uses filters, and your brain just cannot. Because I'll be honest, when I see an account that constantly uses filters, I mean, I don't judge them. I think to myself, maybe this person doesn't have great self-image. And because if they constantly feel the need to like, put sparkles and different things around themselves, I'm not looking at them and letting it make me feel
Yeah.
bad about myself. Again, that comes with that practice of like, like I think that they maybe struggle to put themselves out there authentically as they are because they have
Yeah.
problems with their self-image. It's not about me. So
Yeah.
again, everyone's going to land in a different place. But certainly
Well,
like
and I
if
think
they're
like training yourself to think that way is one step. And then another step can be don't think about it at all. Just see
right,
it, like it. Okay, I'm happy for them. They posted a picture they like,
moving on.
move on.
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of you.
Yeah.
And
Or an attack on you. Yeah.
and whatever they're going through, like who cares? Just be
Yeah.
happy for them. Be happy that they're happy that this one thing probably made them happy today.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is definitely, it takes some practice to get there. And when you're struggling, your journey is your own, and it might take you some time to arrive at a place where you can like exist in social media and you can like not feel like really down on yourself when you see maybe bodies that don't look like yours,
Yeah.
and kind of just be like, no, like that's okay. I'm okay with it. So it's certainly like, developing resilience over time. And then, yeah. And then I think there are probably some accounts out there that are just better, like not to follow. They
Yeah.
just are like in terms of like the behaviors that they promote to achieve,
For sure.
the way they look. Right. So like, I
Yeah.
know that some of those accounts
And the
exist and
black and
I,
white ones, the ones that I try and unfollow are we're like, do this, never do that. Like, see you
right.
later.
Yeah.
Bye.
And I think too, we can even say like coming, like leaving the social media world and like coming into like, look at your community. Like, I think what you'll see too is that the people you spend time with and like your fitness community
Yeah.
is important too for your self-image and your body resilience. So if you're in a community of other athletes and other women who are just like, I'm going to the gym to like get strong. I want to like deadlift my biggest weight, press the biggest bar. They are that's probably your people, like because it takes
Yeah.
that like lens off of like what do I look like, and puts the lens on like what I can do. And I think you touched on that when we were talking about body resilience, is just like what can my body do?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I will add on to that. I have clients come in or friends or whatever, people that I train with, and they will talk about their body and how they're feeling and the want to lose 10 pounds. And even though I know I'm beautiful with the 10 pounds
Mm,
on,
yeah,
this is just what I want. This is where I feel most comfortable.
yeah,
And I'll work on getting comfortable here, but I also want to lose weight. I never would shame them or make them feel bad about wanting to change how big their ass is or any kind of physical goals like that. And I
yeah,
know I've seen so many times where trainers are out there start to shame stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
shame is shame. Shame is shame. So whether
yeah,
you're shaming someone for eating a certain way or being a certain size, like shame is shame. So just remove
yeah,
it. Someone has a goal
yeah.
and it's about their physical appearance, just
That's their
support it.
goal.
Maybe you
Yeah,
can say some things to guide them into a healthier space.
for
And maybe
sure.
sometimes it's so extreme that there does need to be an intervention.
Yeah,
But shaming someone has just never fucking helped anything.
I agree with you. I think
It's
like
never achieved anything positive.
no, and that's just it. I think if when it comes right down to it, like policing people's bodies exists on a spectrum. So
Yeah.
if we can say like you don't want to police somebody that's living in a larger body, you don't get to police somebody that wants to change their body. And if you want to do a deep dark dive into like why they want to make those changes, like sure, it's probably like up to them. It's up to them and their coach. I think as coaches, like you said, we can help people frame stuff in a way and sort of create a path forward that hopefully helps them take a healthy approach and make
Yes.
sustainable changes. And that's always our mission. But certainly, like, I have more than 50% of the people that I work with have goals that are related to making some changes to their composition that that's important to them. They want to feel like, hey, like I guess the common theme is like my outside reflects my inside, where like I'm putting in this effort. I want to like feel really good in my clothes. I want to look in the mirror and see a certain like aesthetic, and that's okay. And like and I always talk about that with clients where it's like, listen, my job is to help you figure out a way that you can do it like so that it's healthy, it's sustainable, you get the outcome that you're after. It's probably not going to be as fast as you want it to be because that's the approach that we take. But certainly, feel good about it and feel good about where you land, right? So
And I think
I do
also
agree that
we
we,
don't guide them and try and give them other goals that they start to see as more motivating that are potentially healthier goals.
yeah,
It doesn't mean that we don't, but we can guide them without dismissing their current goals. We can start
exactly.
to shift a little bit and they can take onto it if they want to. But
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's all about like setting them up for success and making the and like there's a big education piece there too, right? So like, hey, this is how we land where you want to land. It's going to take some like, tweaking here and some effort here, but like we can get there. And it's
yeah,
often too like when I think this kind of ties back into like, coping with some of those days where you're not feeling necessarily great about yourself. Like what can we do? Well, we can move our body. I would say like that's something that even on like my worst day, I'll go into the gym and I'll have a workout and immediately feel the positive impact of like just doing something awesome in the gym, like being strong, deadlifting big weight, squatting big weight, getting my heart rate up, just like doing something physical that really like it grounds me, it centers me, and it brings me back to, okay, like, no, like, yes, my body's pretty awesome. Like, look what I can do. So I
yeah,
think that that's a really big piece for me is like that connection to movement. And I think when we have that connection and then we support it with other healthy lifestyle habits like our nutrition, our sleep, inevitably we land in a place where like we feel pretty darn good about how we're living, and
yeah,
and there is this sort of inevitable outcome that happens in terms of our like whatever, let's say we have those aesthetic goals, we get there, like we kind of have laid the groundwork, we've laid the foundation, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, like here I am. But it came from like that consistent showing up and like taking care of
yeah,
ourselves even on those days when we didn't want to. And so it's just layering all of these things together. But
yeah,
yeah, like on those bad body image days, moving your body, I
yeah.
find for me that's a big one.
Yeah. And like you just mentioned, like consistently showing up. Um, I know for me, like I used to change my day sometime, like or my events, the things I could change based on how I would feel. So making the decision to not let bad body image days dictate my mood or derail my plans
Yeah,
was that growing period. And like I would do that based on like how I felt in my body and my clothes, which I got to say, it went from, I got a bit heavier when I was younger and I was uncomfortable and it wasn't like a good, I was eating a lot of Doritos and stuff like that.
Doritos.
Kind of happened there. Got uncomfortable and I started changing plans. And I also did that based on just really bad skin days too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I decided to make the decision over and over that when I'm feeling off, I choose to follow through with the activities or the outings that I had planned. And taking that action strips away those negative thoughts and takes away the control from those negative thoughts. And that
Yeah.
was my way of reclaiming my day and helping
Yeah.
push past those moments without letting them run the show.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. Yeah, I went through like high school, even junior, I think it started in junior high school, high school, really like dealing with like terrible acne. Cause I've never been someone that has necessarily, had to battle like well, I mean, my weight has fluctuated certainly, but probably more purposefully, where it's like, oh, I'm deliberately gaining some mass, or I'm deliberately losing some fat mass based on whatever it was I was pursuing at that time. So even with that being said, even having being someone that maybe has like a more athletic, idealized composition by certain people in society, I still have bad body image days. But one thing I could definitely relate to, and it would be like the experience I had growing up with dealing with acne and like wanting to hide away and like wanting to like, be like, oh God, like I cannot go to school today looking like this. Like, so
Yeah.
I can really like take how some people have very, very bad body image days. And I can think about those days when I did deal with like, bullying and everything that came from like having acne. It's very demoralizing and very tough. But like you said, just like going out into the world and like, okay, like no matter what, I still have like other things, like things have to be done. I've got track. I've got to like, I've got
Yeah.
things I need to do. So like still finding ways to feel good about myself,
Yeah.
even in the face of maybe not feeling so good about myself.
Yeah. And I will say, like, we both had those issues. I had a lot of them when I remember the first day that I went to Shapes Fitness Center. I wouldn't go on. There was the co-ed side and there was the women's side. So I went into the
Mhm.
women's side, and that first day I wore like leotards that came up to about here, and I felt like sucked everything in under my workout clothes because I thought that that's what I felt I needed that day. And I met my friend there because she was like, come shapes me, let's get going. And she's like, Megan, I can see that you're wearing leotards. I guess it got in. She's like, go take them off right now. And I've never forgotten that. And I never did that again. But I like that's how I wanted to show up
Yeah.
at the gym full of females that didn't care about how
Didn't
I.
care. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like a, I don't know, a 1 to 5 year, it feels like forever year process where I started not going to the co-ed side, but I would walk through the co-ed side to get to the women's side. Then I would work
Yeah.
out on the women's side. And then I would go in, and after a while, I was like, okay, today you're going to walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes on the co-ed side where there's men around. Like for me, it was a really tough, slow process getting
Yeah.
into just being active. I didn't play sports as a kid. So it wasn't, there was nothing natural about it for me. But I
Yeah.
did it and I kept doing it. And
Here you
now
are.
I don't avoid anything, but that
Yeah.
did come easily.
Yeah.
And it was
And
it was
I,
so worth
yeah,
it.
totally.
Yeah.
Always circles back to like, you can think about how this applies like across the board to so many aspects of life, but like just doing hard things, like
Yeah.
taking, like being brave, doing hard things, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations until those like uncomfortable situations are comfortable. And like like that's that fortitude and that resilience. And we can run and hide, or we can, slowly chip away and like, and build that armor. And in the process, when it comes to, fitness and nutrition, really develop like our strongest, healthiest bodies and minds while we, pursue that resilience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's probably helpful. I hope for some people, maybe they took some tidbits away. And I don't know if anyone's going to put leotards on underneath their clothes to go to the gym, but we'll
Go
use some
feel
of our
up.
other tips. Did not know that about you, but that's awesome, Megan. All right.
Trying to hide something under there, I guess. I don't know.
You were like, that was like, you were like the first, you were ahead of your time. Basically, you were wearing Spanx,
I know. I just
right? Or Nicks or whatever it
yeah.
is that people,
I was
right? You got it.
something.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.